Fit for Life Radio, episode number 170. Your host, Gary, here.
And Will.
And today we're diving in on a fun, interesting topic.
We're jumping in. This is a cool one.
Yep, in our PN Academy Research Insider, they break down a study, some interesting stuff on why we move more but burn fewer calories. Everyone, there's a whole bunch of theories, right?
Yeah.
And again, a lot of this is just research review, speculation.
Yeah, there's nothing concrete that's like, hey, this is the only reason this is happening.
But it's pretty interesting.
But it does, it is interesting. There's a lot of cool theories. You can kind of put together your speculation, and we've done the same thing. And
one, we'll preface it with, the average person, you're on a train in New York, and they're like, everyone's getting fatter because, most people are like, we move less and eat too much.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's, that was a good accent.
So it started off
that was good.
Bad, but I found it.
Yeah. Someone from New York's going to be like, that sucked. Yeah. That sucks so bad.
And maybe there is some of that, right? But it's, it's so drastic, right? Obesity as it's raising and all that. And there is some pretty good data, and they have, they pretty much know, and from this research review, pound for pound, adults, grown-ups in the U.S. and Europe burn fewer calories a day than previous generations. And they actually have, and we've talked about this before in the episode about Herman Pontzer's book, Burn, which talks about how maybe we constrain calories from a lot of exercise. Where and for his studies there, where he measured that hunter-gatherer culture, and then some modern or normal people in Europe, and I say normal people, they're probably the normal people, but the hunter-gatherers. But anyways, you use doubly labeled water, that's the process of how you really truly test your metabolism to see how many calories you're burning. And with that, if you go back and listen, they were actually surprised, and they redid it because they thought something was wrong. The hunter-gatherers, equal body size, so a hunter-gatherer that weighed 160 pounds and a office worker in Europe that weighed 160 pounds they had the same metabolic rate. They were burning the total same calories a day, even though the hunter-gatherers were walking 5 miles and dragging animals and building shelter and all that. So again, they've actually have studies where doubly later labeled water going back, and so this was measuring total energy expenditure, which is the total number of calories we burn a day. Basal energy expenditure. So these are calories that we burn if we do nothing.
Yeah, just like your body processes. That's your basal rate.
And then active energy expenditure, which is the calorie cost of movement. So intentional exercise, and all that stuff, moving. Most of the data was collected between 1990 and 2017, and even some of it went back in the early 1980s. So it's 30 years of data of measuring metabolism. And from that, they have found people today are, as we know, much larger on average than 30 years ago. And especially in males, the total energy expenditure is down 222 calories per day. But the active energy expenditure,
so our exercise,
is up 241 calories a day.
So we're clearly exercising more.
We're exercising more, have more movement, but our total energy expenditure is down. Meaning our basal metabolism is something's affecting it.
Yeah. So basically everyone's metabolisms are a little bit slower than they used to be.
On average.
Yeah.
So in the females was not as drastic. It was essentially, but same in that there was an additional, the active energy expenditure is up 100 on average calories, and the total energy expenditure is down 122. So same thing, just not as drastic either way. So basically the basal metabolic rate for that average male in the 2010s is 14.5% lower than it was for this male counterpart in the 1980s and 90s.
I mean, if we're talking that time frame, that's actually a lot. Like, it's a big shift in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
I mean, what you said, 14%?
Yep.
I mean,
and that was just in that one. That was in the 2010s. So now in the 2020s, it's another 7.7%.
Dang.
So yeah, I mean, right there, it's like they have they've been testing 30 years of data.
Yeah.
Why is that? And then remember too, it's also, I feel like it's only 30 years, but then you're probably getting different generations of people too.
Yeah.
So how they maybe you're getting someone in their 40s, which I don't know if they have the ages. I'm sure you can find it somewhere when they start it, maybe or 30s or 40s, and then they had 40 years how they lived a certain way and different changes, but that is kind of the thing now where a lot of people are working off of. So then some people, so for the men especially, a 200 calorie difference in metabolism could theoretically explain a big portion of the obesity crisis and epidemic, right? So in this kind of scientific world, like a 200 calorie difference on average per day is massive, right? So that's the difference of
I mean, if we're talking 200 calories a day, that ends up being like,
I mean, you could what is it times 365?
I mean, that's 200 divided by, that's like 20 pounds.
Yeah. So
20.8 pounds a year if you're consistently 200 in the hole. And that explains how, after 5-10 years, you're 100 pounds overweight. Yeah.
Because other things have looked at, our food supply and what our average calorie intake is. And if you can find an extra 200 calories a day, then that also explains it, right? So that's a factor as well. It's like, so then imagine if we're eating more. Now, and it's interesting because, like we just said, the New Yorker on the subway who's like, oh, we don't move. Well, in theory, we also are eating more.
Yeah.
We're not actually moving less, but our metabolism, our daily total calorie burn is less.
Yep.
But it's not because we're not...
In spite of of moving more still.
In spite of more formal exercise. Yeah. So then, looking at that, it's like, okay.
Well, why? Why is this happening? Why is this happening to me, Gary?
That's what I said.
Damn it.
Well, guess what? Guess what the scientists did? They asked the same question. So... And this will get into some topics and stuff where, and we have personal opinions or experiences or thoughts, and it's also nuanced. And to me, it just shows like, and we know this, I think as humans, we forget, like we think we have all the answers, but you think back, you can look back in history and see moments in time where they thought the same thing. And we look back now and it's like,
what are they doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, we don't, there's so much we don't know. We don't have all
the answers. And there's times where we're going to be like, damn, we didn't know anything. Or we got this completely wrong.
So what explains the drop in total energy expenditure? Because it's not exercise.
Nope. Okay, so exercise is off the table.
It's not... We're eating more, so it's not like, the theory where people are like, I'm eating so little that it's sinking my metabolism. Yes. No, like we're eating enough.
It's never the case that you're not eating enough. I promise you.
So what is it? So the authors offered two potential explanations. So they kind of wrap up in a big one is a long-term drop in core body temperature. So they talked about how the human body temperature was first established in the 1850s, 98.6. That's classic. What we all know.
Yep.
But they know that's no longer accurate. Today's average temperature is 97.9 degrees, a decline of 0.03 degrees Celsius per decade since the mid-19th century. Studies have found that increasing core temperature 1 degree Celsius, so 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit, increases basal metabolic rate by 10 to 25%.
Keep me up. Let's do it.
So coming from that, it would make sense that even a small drop in body temperature would lead to a significant decline.
I mean, we're talking 10 to 25%. Like, that's a lot.
So then it's like, okay, that makes sense, right? So why could that be? Why would our core temperature be lower? So essentially they came up with two things to explore. Both super interesting. One hypothesis, fewer pathogens. So we have less exposure to pathogens
than we used to,
which means fewer infections, which is good, right? In a sense, but then it means that we have less immune system activity. Our body doesn't have to work as hard.
So you're not heating up those micro moments, and not that you have a giant fever, but like your body may have heated up a little bit to put down whatever was going on, then you go back to normal, but you have that periodically through time.
What people don't realize, our body, is amazing and complex, and there's mechanisms for everything. To do something in your body has to mechanically do it.
Yep.
And that comes with a cost.
It costs energy,
calorie burn, right? So, to rev up your immune system, there's a cost. Obvious one is like when we eat a lot of have high fiber foods, or just to digest food, the thermic effect of food. That's where we burn calories just from that, right? So then foods with higher fiber have a higher cost, and we get more kind of metabolism churn from that. So so again, the theory, fewer pathogens, less immune activity, in turn might lead to a lower core temperature, which then in turn could lead to a slower resting metabolic rate.
If you know me, you know I'm always on the run, up early and home late, so having a 3-hour morning routine isn't really in the cards for me. What is in the cards is AG1. It's a fast way to get vitamins and minerals I need to perform. I first gave AG1 a try because I wanted a single solution that helps support my entire body by filling in nutrient gaps and simplifying my morning routine. Since drinking AG1 daily, I've always felt strong and energized and ready to attack the day. Not only does AG1 deliver my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more, it's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. It's one scoop mixed in water once a day and every day. I know that AG1 is giving my body high-quality nutrition. Every batch of AG1 goes through a rigorous testing process, so you know that it's safe. And AG1 ingredients are sourced for absorption, potency, and nutrition density. AG1 is a supplement that I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why I'm excited to welcome them as a new partner. Here is your chance to start every day this season with a gift to yourself. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/provengrit. That's drinkag1.com/provengrit. Check it out.
That's, again, a theory. It may not, they don't know for sure.
It would track, and it might not be singularly just that, right? It could be a lot of things. Like, we're for the most part, we're sheltered from most stressful things. Right? Weather, we don't really experience. Right now it's kind of hot, but
but overall, no one goes outside. We're inside more than ever.
The majority of us have AC. We're inside, and we're not having to deal with that extreme hot and cold that maybe we used to.
Yep. And with the infections, like I said, they don't know for sure, but what they do know for sure is that more infections lead to a higher metabolic rate. With evidence from a tribe in the Amazon rainforest of Bolivia, and 2/3 of the adults battle parasitic infections at any given time, and they have around 10 times as many pathogen-fighting white blood cells as people in industrialized societies, and their basal metabolism burns 250 to 350 more calories per day.
So you're saying I need a parasite. This is my takeaway from this conversation.
Yeah. Well, ever notice too, I'm working with clients where people are like, and again, multifaceted, but hey, I got sick, I lost weight. And now they could have been eating less and fluids and all that, but also again, your body's ramping up, right? So that is one of the kind of like explanations that they offered. The other one,
this one's neat.
This is the one that people are going to dive into, and
it's going to be divided. And
most people I think that listen to our podcast won't know about the nuance of the or care about like this discussion, but. The second one is changes in the fat composition of our diets. Okay. So what that means is, we know throughout the 20th century, consumption of fat in the U.S. has barely budged. Adults in the U.S. ate an average of 39 pounds of fat per year in 1909. In 1999, it was an average of 40 pounds. An increase of just 1.7%.
Yeah.
So in theory,
that's basically the same, in my opinion.
The average American is consuming the same amount of fats in their diet in those time frames. Almost a century. Now, so that's the same. So there were huge changes, though, in the types of fat we ate. Consumption of oils increased 2,000%. So 32 pounds per adult per year.
Damn.
Almost all of that increase, 83%, is from soybean oil. At the same time, animal fats have declined from about 90% of all fat consumption to less than 15%. So, to help that make sense, so we're eating the same amount of fats, but our food supply, our system, and this is super nuanced. This is political. This is environmental. This is money.
Yeah,
but essentially,
it's a lot of things.
At the early stages, we got all our fat from animal fat. Meaning most people were eating meat, and their fat in their diet came from the meat they ate. Right. So you were eating beef, you were eating chicken, you were eating eggs, you were eating pork.
You were eating whatever animal you could kill.
Those food, meat is protein and fat.
Yeah.
So our fat was coming from these whole food sources, animal sources, right? Now, the thing to this, which is a separate topic, is then all the investigation on heart disease and all that, and what causes that. But with this, so that was the case. But then over the years, through some of those studies and stuff with that, and maybe like the different wars that then put a strain on what was available, and then technology, because obviously, like, if you know what soybean is, so think about it. So we essentially went from all our fat coming from animal fat to now all our fat comes from
plants,
soybean oil, right? Vegetable, which is a vegetable oil, processed oil. So there's one right there. It went from whole food fats found in meat to processed vegetable oils. And this has been the underlying argument in the nutrition world, is like, are vegetable oils like inherently bad for you outside of, if they help any oil, if it is processed, so it's easier to eat. It's this liquid form of super dense calories, and we add it to our food. It can make you overconsume and then lead to excess body fat, which can lead to negative consequences.
Yes.
So that is agreed upon.
That's established. We're good.
If oil in your diet, even whether animal fat or vegetable oil, is causing that is a problem. But the real thing is, equally equated, is there an inherent danger to, say, vegetable oil versus saturated animal?
A whole plant or a whole animal fat.
Yeah. And the general consensus was like, no. Right. But then when you look at some of this, so this is what this is kind of proposing, is like, well, our total fat intake's the same, but the composition of fat
is way different.
Okay. So, and
it's the inverse. It's completely flipped now.
And that is a fact. Like, we know that. But then you're saying, okay, what does this have to do with my basal metabolic rate?
Yeah.
Well, that's what they said.
Let's loop it back around.
So let's explore that. So they decided to explore it, and this is where we're at now. Essentially, they set up an experiment with mice to see They fed the mice diets with different types of fat for 4 weeks. 4 weeks for mice. For meese. What is meese? What is mice plural? Mice.
Mices?
It should be meeses.
Well, mice is plural. Mouse is.
Yeah, you're right. Fed them. So 4 weeks in mice life is equivalent to 3.5 years for a human. And
man,
they found out diets higher in saturated fat led to a higher metabolic rate.
And this is everything equated.
Mm-hmm. And again, there's like one thing with a certain breed of mice and all that.
So there are limitations. It's not like, hey, this is exactly how it is in people. But
yeah, but
it definitely it gives us something to explore, and does, I think mice are similar enough to us that we can, say, hey, this could be a thing.
Yeah. And then you can break down into more nutrition stuff where it's like the human body is mostly like our cells are made up of saturated fat. Like it's a big portion of them.
Very much so.
Vegetable oil, like soybean oil, is mostly unsaturated fat. And like a lot of these other vegetable oils are really high in what's called like omega-6, which just doesn't make up a lot of our body, human body. And again, that's where like it's so complicated. You're talking again like about these mechanical pathways of like, does it make a difference? Does it not? Right. And that's where they're at. Right. So now you start to see where everyone that pointed and said vegetable oils are bad. And then people are like, no, they're not. And then again, it's the same on the other side of the coin. There's a lot of evidence that a lower saturated fat, lower animal diet is better for lowering heart disease risk, right? So, and that's why those are suggestions are like do more of these things, right? But then a lot of that comes down to like, oh, we think maybe just LDL, we have to have a low LDL. So it's like, do we really think one metric?
One single thing
is worth extrapolating and basing like our entire, I think it's more complex than that,
it's way more complex than that. Like we don't know.
Someone could be like, 300 pounds but have a low LDL and they'll be like,
oh, I'm healthy.
Yeah.
My
and
blood
it's
work
like,
is
okay,
great.
There's these other factors.
Yeah.
So, but it's really interesting, right?
Is.
Maybe, and we know if most people are overeating and getting some exercise in, but your metabolic rate is lower, that could be the difference. And
maybe I'll run an experiment.
I'll say this: I know. Again, my personal preference, my weighing stuff. I don't use added fats. Right. Because I like to stick to mostly whole foods, and I also never enjoyed them. So I use, and I don't eat fried food. That's a simple rule just because it's like an easy way to get extra calories. And I never enjoyed it much. I'll eat French fries from time to time, but I'm not,
you're not eating fried chicken
outside of that. Yeah. Or if I go to sushi, I'm not picking the fried options, not eating fried chicken.
Roll.
Yeah. Just so I almost eat virtually zero seed oils outside of when I get French fries. Note, French fries, McDonald's, I don't know the exact year, but like 1990, 1980, which is funny because it correlates with...
Yeah, it does correlate with this, thinking about it.
With the metabolism thing. Holy crap.
So you're telling me it's McDonald's fault?
About 30 years ago, McDonald's cooked their fries in beef tallow, which is animal fat, beef fat. And then they switched to seed oils because of pressure from, the companies that make them, money, politics, the heart disease stuff and all that, right? So we're going to switch from, beef tallow to seed oil.
Yeah. Tallow, Formula 47 is what it was called.
Does it give you a date or anything?
Let's see.
We cracked it. What if we cracked it?
No, it's friggin' McDonald's fault.
Hey, and that was the drastic change in the over those 20 years, like you said.
Hey,
yeah,
they had a blend that was 93% beef tallow, 7% vegetable oil. That's what they used.
Yep.
Which is like the ratio that it was in like 1900s.
Yeah.
Interesting. It doesn't tell you. It doesn't tell you a year.
Google.
Oh, 1990. There we go.
That was 30 years ago.
I believe we're unraveling this mystery, and McDonald's is at the center of it.
Well, then think about it. If everyone was eating fast food, and that's when it drastically changed on a population level. And that's probably when everyone's like if McDonald's switched, everyone switched.
They're pushing everybody,
right? So 30 years ago, it's like there was a drastic change in think about it. If you ate McDonald's 4 or 5 days a week, and then they go from overnight changing the oil you use, you're still eating the same food, same amount, but the composition of the fats changed.
So different. Yeah, they went from that 93.7 blend to 100% vegetable oil.
Yep.
Oh, God.
So,
damn.
Yeah, so me personally, I don't use added fats, don't eat fried food, and I get all my fats. I mean, ever since I've been paying attention to this stuff and the food from animal fat.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we're about the same too.
Yeah, eggs and meat. Yeah. That's where I get all my fats from. Every now and then I'll have nuts and stuff. I just don't enjoy them that much, or like I just prefer the fat, a little moderately fat meats. Like I like the mouthfeel and the flavor.
Good mouthfeel.
Yeah. So yeah, my metabolism is good.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's humming along. So I diligently track food and know so I can maintain 160 to 5 pounds when I'm at that weight at 3,000 calories a day, which would be an above average metabolism. And that's not a ton of exercise. That's basic, right? Like we talked about.
Yeah. I mean, you're definitely not doing 6 days a week.
I'm not trying to exercise my way. I do the minimum. So again, in one, that's me.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one factor in a web of many factors. But I think there is a little correlation there, and it's a thread to follow.
And again, it's not suggestions we make because we just don't know, and people don't know. So I hate when people get on and say this is fact.
Yeah, it's not.
But it is something I prefer, and I'll see people argue it. It's normally super science based people versus paleo people, even though seed oils are the devil and all that, and it's super nuanced and they don't know, right? And it just comes down to, this is where it comes down to you need to decide for yourself a little bit, and go and I think, and even if it is the other way around and the animal fats should be minimized completely, I made the trade-off of I enjoy my meals with those, and I'm going to keep my total body composition in check, and I eat a lower fat diet anyway, so it's not like I'm eating 200 grams a day. It's 50, and even then, with majority of my diet coming from animal fat, the general consensus is 10% or less of your diet of saturated fat. So if I'm eating 60 grams of fat a day, and even beef alone, the saturated fat's just 45% of it.
Yeah, it's not all saturated fat.
I'm still at it's 20, 25 grams a day of saturated fat, which if I eat 2,500 calories to 3,000 calories a day, that's less than 10%. So yeah. But it's interesting. And I still stand, and we've talked about this before, get a soybean oil, right? Go look at a soybean. You can't extract oil from that without modern technology.
Yeah.
So then to have a food like that, and then the other concern with those foods is they get rancid easily.
Yeah.
And the high temperatures.
They are highly processed. They're not
highly processed. They're not protected. So, and then you're getting consuming pounds of that a year, right? And
when things are rancid too, you have to remember that means it's breaking down. Which when the bonds start to break down in something, it's usually not a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, when it gets inside your body. Yeah. So, to me, I just don't think, and same thing, I don't think pouring gallons of butter and extra tallow is great either.
No.
Eat it, and it's packaged sourced. So again,
and it's whole food form.
Yep.
Whole fat dairy.
Yeah.
Eat fatty meats or red meat or whatever it is that has
whole eggs or nuts or avocados or things like that.
Coconuts.
So I don't think most people should be eating tons of processed oil, right? I don't even think that's a crazy thing to say.
I don't think it's controversial.
Yeah, like eat majority whole unprocessed foods.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this would be interesting to see as they go down the rabbit hole of what they come up with, right?
I would hope that they would start to do some stuff with people soon, just to get like, all right, was it only mice or does this apply to us too?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm going to lean towards yes, but we won't know until they try it.
Yep.
Sometimes you can have a great hypothesis and it gets shut down, and that's okay. That's science.
And you know, and then with the other one too, with the path, don't go making yourself sick. But
yeah, don't go start eating worms. And
yeah, I think the bigger takeaway actually is think about it. We're in these sterile environments, all the time, indoors, temperature controlled. Like, just do more stuff outside.
Yeah,
like don't be outside more.
Yeah, don't
expose yourself
and don't worry so much about the dirt.
Yeah,
you know, and because there are. And I think something to clear up when we talk about like infections and being exposed to stuff, it doesn't mean you're on your deathbed. It just means, hey, your body was exposed to this. It had to fight it, which happens all day, every day to us anyways. But it happened more to, you know, these people that are living like indigenous people. So, yeah, I'm not saying that you have like strep throat and you're out for 2 weeks. It's just the constant exposure to these little things keeps the metabolic rate high because you do have an active immune system. Yeah.
And some takeaways are, and one thing to remember with all this data is on average, right?
Yes.
On average, more people are getting more exercise activity and movement. But you could very well also be below average on that. So still, like, you check your other, I mean, this is fun to talk about and theorize on, but make sure you're checking your other boxes too. Like, are you getting, 7,000-8,000 steps a day plus? If not, like, worry about that first. Make sure you are, getting that movement in, walking, resistance training, like we talk about.
Yeah. I mean, all of our basic tenets, the things that I think are non-negotiables for being a person, those need to be taken care of before we start worrying about the little nuanced things that may or may not matter as much.
Yeah, and like we talked about, so like you're going to hear a lot of takes too that are very aggressive. Like, the people who harp on seed oil is bad, meat only good, and all. They're going to be like, only eat more saturated fat, right? And then people will go load up on butters and I'm going to take, and like we talked about, that's probably not right either.
No,
most people probably shouldn't be eating a ton of added fats anyways.
You don't need 120 grams of fat a day, or you know what I mean? It's just not.
And if you're eating some animal products, which like lean meat, low fat dairy, whole eggs, you're going to get and you let your fat come from that in appropriate amounts. Let that be.
You're
right.
Gonna be okay.
So, but it doesn't mean like go down, I'm still going to eat a ton of fried food, but now I feel better because my daily French fries are in tallow, right?
Yeah. That should not be the takeaway.
Yeah. So, let more. It's complicated, right? The whole saturated fat composition thing. And again, a good way is like, well, don't be reckless with it, right?
Yeah.
So and again,
be reasonable, man.
Do you know anyone in your entire life that has uses like canola oil and soybean oil to like kind of the way we use olive oil, or like, you know what I'm saying, or like a pat of butter? Like, no, like most people are probably thinking, I don't eat soybean oil. Well, you do, and it's 85% of everyone's fat intake because it's what they fry food with. Yeah. Right? And
it's in like almost any like processed packaged food.
Exactly. So then you go and you look. Yeah, go look at every packaged food. Like Will said, you're going to see soybean oil. So the real reality is like, cut out processed foods.
Could you imagine cooking your food in soybean oil? Like just like
who? Like I don't know. Again, I don't know anyone that does that.
Put it in a pan. Like put your steak in there.
Yeah. It's wild.
Nah. No thanks.
Don't go all extreme, right?
No.
You know what? Just just eat more whole foods and less processed foods.
Yeah, like that's a great place to start. We're going to cut down on
a lot of things.
So many things by just making that switch, which is not super drastic or hardcore or extreme in one direction or the other.
Yeah. And it's like they actually say in here, this study will probably inspire some really bad takes. and like we just said, so yes, a higher ratio of saturated fats might help to increase a client's metabolic rate. Yes, an intestinal parasite would help your metabolic rate, but no one is recommending that, right?
Sign me up.
Yeah.
Let's go.
But someone might actually recommend that stuff. So,
you know what? I guarantee there's someone out there recommending parasites and selling them.
Yep.
That can't be legal.
Yeah.
Bro, there's a parasite black market. There's got to be.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Yeah. So keep eye on that. And again, ultimately it shows how complicated this is.
Yeah.
Yes, we could be eating more total calories. Yes, we could be exercising more or less. It's nuanced. Remember, these are averages. And then maybe something you didn't even realize. It's just the way the food system switched. And if you look back to even packaged food in the 80s, they used palm oil, which is saturated fat, and meat, beef tallow and stuff like that. So again, then the food system kind of switches, and you can't control that.
Cheaper.
So now in the chips and French fries you eat, that fat composition changes, and maybe they do find out that it has a drastic impact on our metabolism, and maybe you actually have been eating the same overall, but your metabolism's less, and you're gaining weight, right? So yeah, be interested to find out. But again, no drastic takes per se. We encourage people to eat whole unprocessed foods, lean meats, fruits, veggies, limit your packaged stuff, and that will probably naturally in and of itself give you a little more favorable environment to optimize your metabolism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And get out there and expose yourself to the world. Different temperatures, sweat a little bit, shiver a little bit, get a little dirt on your feet, Yeah. It's not going to hurt you.
Live a little.
I don't think.
Live a little.
Just a little, okay? Again, doesn't need to be the extreme. You don't need to go to the surface of the sun or go outside in minus 40 degrees with no clothes on. But, just get a little exposure.
That's what biohackers do.
Yeah.
They'll hear stuff like
this.
Dude,
they've run with it.
Guarantee you someone's going to be in a pond in Antarctica right now crushing some beef tallow.
Just beef tallow. Nothing else. Just scooping it, bro.
While having a parasitic...
little parasite in there, just getting all that fat.
and they're going to be like, I'm biohacking,
The core temperature is 110.
When the reality is like, you know what? Yeah, just... put on a jacket and go for a walk when it's 40 degrees.
Yeah.
And come back and have some 93.7 ground beef with broccoli and rice.
Easy.
like that versus let me stay inside and order this Chinese takeout to my house. So whereas down you never stepped outside, and you got a meal that's made up of majority of the calories are coming from vegetable oil
and sugar.
Yeah,
both of those things.
So versus, hey, a meal with a ton of different nutrients has a little potentially favorable fat composition for metabolic rate. Got outside, expose yourself.
Don't expose yourself.
Yeah. Expose yourself to elements.
There you go.
Not exposing your element to the elements.
Oh, shit.
So, yeah.
I mean, it seems reasonable, right? Reasonable takeaways.
I'm not going to lie. If this was a Vegas thing,
I'd put my money on it.
I'd put my money on it.
No,
I would put my money on the negative consequence of the very high seed oil. The fat composition does matter.
Yeah, I think it does. Why? Not 100%, but I think there's credence with our body's made up of a lot of it, like you said. So
and you go back to again, not that all the answers are there, but you go back and look at history too, and it's like, okay, most of our fat before industrialized food, we've been eating meat for millions of years.
Well, you couldn't extract the oil from, say, a soybean.
And you ever,
like, again, I'm telling
you can get a lot of answers from Naked and Afraid too.
No, because you're right though.
Like, you think too, like, they'll find an almond, but then you realize, like, they won't even be able to crack them open, right? Then they have to have a tool, and then they get one open, and it took 4 days.
Yeah, all that work to get an almond.
Right.
You'd have been better off not trying.
It's like, how are you going to get soybean oil? and then you look at almost every food we eat, we have industrialized. So we wouldn't even, like, there wasn't many places on earth that even had a bounty of those foods available versus like meat, which does have a lot of concentrated fat on it, and then there's the argument too, a lot of our animals are super lean, right, and they don't have a lot of fat, but we also don't know what kind of animals were around further and further back. So again, super nuanced, super complicated, but in general, eating industrialized seed oils is very, 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 very new.
It is. If you're talking, it's just, when did that start? 1900s, technically, right?
Well, really, it didn't start till, you could probably look at like the 60s or 70s, like when we got the technology to process it.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it started earlier at all.
So I don't think it was available much, but for refrigeration and really plastic for storage.
One of the only oils we really had that went back far was olive oil, and that's not a seed oil. It's fruit oil. Fruit oil, but that's the only one that was really at all there.
Yeah, fruit olive oil and avocado is a fruit.
Yeah, same with coconut oil.
Coconut is a fruit. So you start looking; those are actually fruit oils. A little different from in composition than these, and then that's where it's marketing too. Like vegetables good, right? But when we say vegetable oils, it's soybean, corn oil, a couple other things.
Rapeseed oil,
like foods that you want to get oil from them. You couldn't do it on your own.
What was the other one?
Meaning you would have to eat. Do you know how many soybeans you would have to eat to get like a pound of soybean oil? It'd be impossible.
What was the one? Was it cottonseed oil? Where it was like a byproduct of, I don't know, some industrial process, and they were like, well, we could sell this.
Think about it.
And they bleached it and sold it.
A tablespoon of soybean oil is what? Like 15 grams of fat.
Yeah.
So regular soybean.
How many soybeans?
Is like.
You ready? Mm-hmm. Okay, so if we're talking a gallon of oil, that's the best I could find. 3,500 beans to make a gallon.
Yeah.
Bro. That's a lot.
And then also if you're eating soybeans, it comes packaged with protein and carbohydrates and other micronutrients and all that, right? You're not getting just, the isolated oil. It has none of that. None of the micronutrients. Zero micronutrients.
Yeah, it's just isolated oil. It's just separated from everything.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's where my money would be.
So that's where I'm at.
Doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, really comes down to make sure you're checking your boxes, getting your movement in, controlling your total food intake, controlling your body composition. And those are going to have the biggest effect.
Yeah, those are your big rocks. And then these things we talk about can be little influencers, but yeah.
Side note, did you know that Buffalo Wild Wings uses beef tallow? So I
feel like I did know
all
that.
their French fries and wings and stuff are fried in beef tallow.
Can I tell you something?
So if someone wants to experiment, like
change your fry source,
or just to even see like what tastes better.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Go get French fries at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Beef tallow fries.
Go to a bougie restaurant and get like duck fat fries.
Oh God, they're so good.
And then go get regular vegetable oil fries. So and let us know how you.
And you know what? And what I already know the answer, of course, but McDonald's, when they changed the vegetable oil, added beef flavoring because people complained that the fries didn't taste good enough.
I'm telling you, man. You know.
Do you know what, though? You mentioned Buffalo Wild Wing. I've eaten there like 3 times. And the wings. And, dude, I can eat anything. Dude, I feel like I was going to throw up every single time I ate their wings. And I don't know what it was. I can eat anything. Nothing messes me up. So I don't go to Buffalo Wild Wings.
Did you get like super spicy or anything?
Dude, they were like basic wings.
Yeah.
There was something in them, in the sauce or whatever, that like I ate it and immediately was like, this is wrong.
Yeah.
Anyways, I would go there for the fries though.
All right. There we have it.
Couple takeaways.
Let us know. We thought it was interesting.
A little speculation.
Dive in.
Sometimes it's fun to just, think.
Yes, sir. Well, we appreciate you for listening.
Yeah. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.
As always, thanks for listening, guys. If you want to learn more, check us out at coastalfitnessva.com or garydeagle.com. We'll see you next time.